people ask me, well, how many women have you been with? Well, I mean, too many.
Did you ever practice protected sex?
When I was younger, I did. But since then, I walked around thinking that I was bulletproof for a little too long.
What's going on, everybody? How you doing today? So here I am in Butler Creek Cemetery, which is in, I guess, the community of Butler Creek, Arkansas, right near Sulphur Springs, Arkansas. Now, I just showed you the drive kind of in. It's right on the state line between Missouri and Arkansas. Sulphur Springs is a very, very small town, and Butler Creek, I don't even know if it's a town, to be honest. It's a couple of houses, a few houses. But Sulphur Springs itself, which I showed you, tiny, tiny. I hate to use the term middle of nowhere, but because everybody lives somewhere, right? And so it's not the middle of nowhere to the people who live here, but it's off the beaten path. It's not, we're not near any major cities, to say the least. It's really far out in more ways than one. It's just really sweet. I just stopped in to buy a bottle of water, and because it was at the dollar store, and there was literally nobody in the parking lot. I didn't know if anyone was working there, and there were a few customers, and everybody smiles for me, and the people behind the counter smiles again. And just really sweet, just small town America. Very, very, very nice. And this is a story about somebody from small town America who made it big and then crashed and burned. It seems to be a little bit of more of a major road than I thought. This, not major. I mean, I've seen 2 cars in the past 10 minutes I've been here, but I didn't expect it, really. Talking about Tommy Morrison. Now, Tommy the Duke Morrison was a pro boxer, and probably best known as Tommy Gunn from Rocky V. Now, I'm a huge Rocky fan, huge. Love all the movies, every single one of them. I love Rocky V as well. It wasn't it was the least successful. I was about to say it wasn't the most successful. It really was the least successful of all the Rocky movies. The year it came out, 1998, I think it made like 40 million only, and it was listed at number 32 on top grossing movies of that year. So that's not good for a Rocky movie. Not at all. So, let me flip the camera around. This is a cemetery where Tommy is interred. He's here. But there's no pin to exactly where his grave is. So I've got my work cut out for me. I'm not sure how many roads, but it goes down the hill there. You can see a little church down there. And I drove along here, that road there, and you can see the cemetery from the hill. And it's just really beautiful. I mean, this area of the country is spectacular. And yeah, this is a beautiful place. I'm going to talk to you about Tommy Morrison and just kind of ramble on about what I know about him, because I do know a fair amount, and it is one of the craziest lives I've ever read about. When I first started, I wanted to come to Tommy Morrison's grave for quite a long time. And really all I knew about him, I was into boxing when I was younger, so I knew that he had beaten George Foreman for the WBO title, the World Boxing Organization title. I knew that he had fought Lennox Lewis, Razor Ruddock, and Lennox Lewis, that's a big guy. Lennox Lewis was a big dude. Tom Morrison was about 6'2". Lennox Lewis was 6'6". But he went 6 rounds with Lennox Lewis. He didn't beat him, but still. Tommy was known for his left hook. And when he started fighting, he knockout after knockout in the first round. He had a devastating left hook. Quite a boxer. Now, his life is chaotic. Now, this would be good if I had somebody with me, because you walk, one person goes on one side, one person goes on the other, and you just kind of go up and down. I mean, look how far down that goes. We'll take a quick little walk. Actually, I'm going to sit down right here underneath this tree, tell you about his life, because he did not have it easy at the beginning, but he also didn't make things easy for himself. He got into a lot of trouble. What I found most fascinating about Tommy Morrison, aside from his boxing career, was how much trouble he brought on to himself. Let me just tell you a couple of stories I know. He grew up, he was born around this area, but then they moved to Jay, Oklahoma, which is a tiny town not far from here, him and his family. His mother, I know, was acquitted of stabbing a woman. She had stabbed a woman to death, but she was acquitted of it. That's odd right away, to know that that's your mom was on trial for that. And from what I've read, his father was a raging alcoholic and liked to fight and liked to beat up Tommy. So Tommy, around 8 years old, took up the sport of boxing at 8, very young. And at 13, he dropped out of school. And he started working construction, but he also said he started running, kind of being like an enforcer for the mob, we'll say, and collecting debts. And, well, not necessarily collecting debts, just warning people they better pay up or something bad is going to happen to you. Never did the thug work, but would warn people. At 13, already that's like, what is happening? And he would work with his father, and at the end, and they got along well during their work experience together. But Tommy said every day when they got home, his father would, quote, beat the crap out of him. But by a young age, by 19, he was also doing what's called, and I just had read about this yesterday. I didn't know about this part of his life. He was in tough man competitions, which is basically like MMA, kind of like that sort of thing, but like mixed martial arts, like just kind of like fighting, but this is just like street fighting in jeans, whatever you wear, and no rules, no pros, just fighting. And he said that he won most of them. So he had a manager, And the manager was the same manager as Mike Tyson. So it was going to be set up that he was going to be fighting Mike Tyson. And at the time, Sylvester Stallone was casting, this is 89 around, he was casting for Rocky V. So he needed somebody who could box, possibly act, but more importantly could box, to play his protege in the film. So if you haven't seen Rocky V, let me bring you up to speed. Essentially, Rocky is forced into retirement. Rocky, you know, of course, Sylvester Stallone. And he decides to take under his wing a young boxer named Tommy Machine Gun. And they form a quick bond. But then Tommy is enticed by another boxing manager. He becomes the champion of the world. And people call him a paper champion somewhat, a fake champion, because he never actually fought Rocky for the title. So he feels he's never going to be the proper champion unless he fights Rocky Balboa. So the rest of the movie, he's kind of taunting Rocky, saying, you have to fight me, you have to fight me. Rocky doesn't want to fight. Finally, they get into a street fight in a bar in Philadelphia. Of course, it's Rocky, so it's Philadelphia. And of course, it's a Rocky movie, so it ends with a giant fight. But this was on the street. Rocky wins, and that's the movie. Come on! Doesn't sound like much, but it's great. If you love Rocky movies, it's still good. It's like pizza. You can have bad pizza. It's still pizza. It's still good. That's what I say. I don't care. If they made a Rocky movie every year, I'd watch it. But in terms of his professional fighting career, so he beat George Foreman in 1993, but then he lost to a guy named Michael Bent. And then he did eventually fight Lennox Lewis in 1995, but he got knocked down in the 6th round, like I said. But he won his first 28 professional fights. Didn't necessarily fight the greatest, but still. However, in 1996, when he was going through the test for a fight in Nevada, in Vegas, he tested positive for HIV. And so he's banned, and it was upheld by every sanctioning body of boxing. So, and then he said at a news conference he would never fight again, and he blamed it on a permissive and fast and loose lifestyle.
If there's anyone out there that feels that they have come in contact with me either directly or indirectly, I would truly encourage them to get themselves tested.
Now, Tommy claimed that he had sex with 2 to 3 women a day for 5-6 years. He said he had sex with more women than Wilt Chamberlain. So he led a pretty promiscuous lifestyle. Now, he had to get into his legal problems, his legal issues, would make this an hour-long video. I'm not kidding. He had a fair amount. I'm gonna just tell you a few of them that I know about. I know that in December of '93, he was in a bar somewhere in, I think it was Iowa. And some students were staring at him, 2 couples. He didn't like that, so he punched one of them. But you know, you're Tommy Morrison at this point. You were, you know, championship belt. You're in Rocky. Of course, people are going to stare at you, but it seemed to be something he didn't like. But he pled guilty. Then in October '96, he pled guilty to transporting a loaded firearm across state lines to Oklahoma, and he had a suspended sentence for that. Then in 1997, he was convicted of DUI, where he had to spend time in treatment. Another story I heard was one of his friends got into a fight with a couple of guys in a bar. And this is true. This is one of his many arrests. Tommy had multiple charges and multiple arrests. And so Tommy went and bailed him out. And when they were leaving the courtroom, or leaving the jail, he was walking down the steps, and he saw one of the guys that was involved in the altercation. Tommy was not involved in the initial altercation. He just went to bail out his friend. But as he was walking down the steps of the police station, he saw one of the guys involved in it and beat him up in front of a bunch of cops. So basically, got arrested on the police station steps and taken right back into jail where he just bailed out his friend. Whew. Anyway, so he was sentenced to 2 years in prison in 2000 for various charges. Another year was added to his sentence in 2002 for violating parole. When he was released, he said that HIV tests had resulted in false positives and he wanted to resume his career. Now, he passed medical tests in Arizona, and returned to the ring. He fought twice more in his career. He won once in West Virginia, and his last fight was in Mexico. He finished with a record of 48-3-1 with 42 knockouts, which is a pretty good boxing record. That's pretty impressive. Now, here's where it gets... There's more... You got to really go online if you want, and you can read the list of charges. He had a very troubled life. I mean, there's cocaine, there's weed, there's weapons, there's meth. He couldn't keep it together, to say the least. And all this time, he's denying that he has HIV. So I'm assuming he's not taking medication for it. His body's weakening. In August 2013, it was reported that his mother said that he had full-blown AIDS and was in his final days. I found a video online. It looks to be, it's really rough, but somebody coming to visit Tommy.
How you doing, man? Paramedic. All right?
A paramedic came to awaken Tommy Morrison and get 4 vials of his blood. Doctors in New York needed them to determine how far Morrison's HIV infection had progressed, and the samples were rushed out of Tulsa on the first flight.
Now, I read more. He married a woman named Trish. Now, I'll get into his marriage situation in a moment. But at this point, he married a woman named Trish from England who came over here, and I think specifically to marry him. I'm not sure. And she did not believe that Tommy had AIDS, and Tommy did not believe he had AIDS. And they bragged about having sex, multiple unprotected sex all the time. On September 1st, 2013, he died in Nebraska, at Omaha, Nebraska, at the age of 44. His official cause of death was cardiac arrest resulting from multi-organ failure due to septic shock. Now, what's interesting is by the age of 19, Tommy had 2 kids, 2 boys. Both are boxers now, which is, you know, and apparently they're both very good. I'm not really following boxing anymore. Trey Morrison and Kenzie Morrison. And apparently they're both pretty good. Now, this is by 19. 2 kids by 2 different women. No judgment, but that's, you know, and didn't have anything to do with them, from what I know. He was married to 2 different women at the same time, and I believe both were named Dawn. So, that's odd, right? He's also married to another woman at one point named Tammy, but I think the most interesting thing was he was married to 2 women at the same time. There could be more kids of Tommy's that we don't know about, that's for sure. And that's not publicized. I'm sure they know, but I would think maybe not though. But with the amount of unprotected sex he was having with that amount of women, oh, I think I just found Tommy's grave. Wow. Well, I see Morrison. I don't know yet. Morrison. Well, it's Morrison. Tanya Morrison, Tim Morrison. Well, it's going to be a little easier than I thought. Let me walk through here. Yes, here he is right here. So we got a bunch of Morrisons here. Now, of course, John Wayne's real name was Marion Morrison, and people say that he claimed that he was a distant relative of John Wayne. It was never been proven. But John Wayne, I passed his birthplace not too long ago, like a day ago, somewhere around here. I can't remember where. So, it's possible. What was I saying about that? I saw pictures of the headstone on an article I was reading about Tommy, and there was a little boy, and it was his son, and I think it was his son with Trish. I think. I don't know if his son with Tammy or Trish. I'm not going to put it up because he probably lives in the area still. But he looked to be about 6 or 7. I'm not sure when the photo was taken exactly. So that's 3 kids that I know of, and 4 wives that I know of. It's a very, very convoluted family tree that he has himself, notwithstanding his parents. And I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about him himself, Tommy. I don't really know how many kids officially he has, or how many wives he officially has. It's murky. I do know, however, that when he died, that there was quite a battle over his remains. He was cremated, but what his wife wanted to do was divide up his ashes into little tiny bits, put them in like some tiny boxing gloves, I guess like little silver boxing gloves with a little cap on it, and either give them or sell them to friends and people who wanted them, so people could wear parts of Tommy around. It's like, not so they could, you know what I mean, so they could wear around their neck little bits of Tommy's ashes. And his family did not want that. So there was a battle over that for a while. So I don't think he was interred here for quite a while. And finally he was. And this is it. And let's take a look at what it says here. So it says Tommy Morrison, January 2nd, 1969 to September 1st, 2013. In memory of a loving son, brother, and father. And some boxing gloves there. Clean this off. There's a picture of Tommy on the grave there. Flower. I don't know. Some coins. I've got a rock that I'm going to leave here that I always do. So there's Tommy Morrison. Here's Tommy Wayne Morrison. Esther Morrison. Thomas. Another Thomas Morrison. Another Thomas Morrison. And Helen Morrison. So 2008, 1917, 1943, 1963. Now he had a brother, Timmy, who, oh wait, Tim. Now he was born in 1944, so that's Timmy Senior. Because there's a Tim, you know, parents of Tim, Tanya, Tommy. Oh, so here's his parents. So Diana's his mom, I knew that. Oh, so this is Tommy's parents right here. Okay. I know the sun's quite bright. So his father did pass away. So Tim, yes, parents of, so Tommy has a sister, Tanya. I know his brother Tim was serving time in prison. I don't know if he's out yet. Oh, so this is Tommy's sister. Oh my goodness, she died at such a young age, 33 instead of 33, 20. So she lived almost 53, but Mama and sis, love you very much. Somebody's written with green marker on it. Wow. Okay. So I'm assuming his brother Tim is still alive. So here we've got, oh, this family tree is different. This would be, I guess, Tommy's grandparents here. So wait a minute, what's the name here? I've got the parents written, Esther and Thomas. So this, Alan, Wayne, Donald, Kenneth, Gerald. So this one here, this grave, is Tommy's grandparents. Parents of Tom, yeah. And parents of Tim. That's Tim. That's Tommy's father. Bear with me here as I'm trying to figure this out. So these Morrisons here, Thomas H. Helen O. 1889, 1920. Makes sense that these are the great-grandparents. But on the back, well, it says they're children. Alan Wayne, I don't see... wait. Oh, God. Esther and Thomas. I don't see Esther or Thomas. Huh. Well... Man, was there another one? No, okay. So this is the Morrison family plot. I figured out what we've got. Tommy, his Tommy Wayne. Oh, so this is another one of their sons. Grandparents, parents, his uncle, Tommy, his sister. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't add that Tommy did have some charges, domestic abuse charges, and that's unforgivable. And I know that he hit his wife, Tammy, and then apparently bit her friend during the altercation. And then I also read that he hit a woman who, in a bar, knocked her off a bar stool. And so there's no, like I said, that's, you know, especially for a guy that's a big, huge guy, 6'2", and a boxer. He did a lot of messed up stuff. That's the convictions and the arrests go on. And like I said, it was drug use, it was fighting, and most of all, I mean, if he was in denial of HIV, how many women was he having sex with that he was denying he had to? If they didn't know that he had tested positive for it, you know, this guy he had a troubled life. Let's leave it at that. So, after having Tommy on my list of graves I want to visit, I can't believe that I'm finally out here. And really, when I had him on my list, I only knew about him from Rocky V. I didn't know much else about him other than a couple of, you know, he was a champion at one point, and he was fighting from a young age, and he was Tommy Gunn. He was Tommy Gunn. And then as I delved into his backstory, I was like, oh man, this guy's got a lot more. You can't. It's hard not to say some of the bad stuff he did, which I don't normally like to do at a cemetery. You know, I like to honor the people. But, you know, he led a troubled life. He was rich at one point, successful, you know, and then lost it all. And here he is. And when you read something like In Memory of a Loving Son, Brother, and Father, he was loved. And he's got fans. I was looking up some of his stuff that's online for auction. You can buy his boxing gloves from his early fights and stuff, and not expensive at all. Some of the stuff. I knew that the shorts that he wore in Rocky V, the boxing shorts, they sold, I think, a few years ago for like $1,000 only, autographed by Tommy. You think a movie prop like that, such Rocky fans out there, it'd be worth a lot more, but I don't know. Take one last look around the cemetery here. That's it. Thought I would have to walk down the hill and go up and down. But he's right here. So if you come up to Butler Creek, come up the street then, see that white pole, turn in, 3 rows in, let's go to your right. There's Tommy Morrison. Really, he could have had it all. I mean, if he changed parts of his lifestyle and took care of himself, and even after getting diagnosed with HIV, he could have, you know, he wouldn't be fighting anymore after a certain point. I don't think. I did hear that he did attempt to open a center for kids. He wanted to put his name on it. I don't know if that ever came to fruition. So it seemed like he was trying to do some good near the end. I think so. That's what I read too somewhere. And for all the trouble that he went through, I mean, he was very loved. He used to do free autograph signings in Jay, Oklahoma. He would just stand on the street corner and people would line up for his autograph back in the day in the 90s. And people come from far and wide to see Tommy Morrison in the flesh. There he is. We'll clean him off a little more. So it's much more of a story than I thought. I thought I was just going to come out here. This is about 3 months ago I started doing the research. So 3 months ago when I said, okay, on this leg of the trip, I'm definitely going to visit Tommy Morrison. I thought, I'll just talk about Rocky 5 because I love the Rocky movies. And, you know, a couple bits about his boxing career. But then when I read his life, I was like, this is insanity. This is pure chaos. And, yeah. It's probably, look online, you can read more of his exploits out of the ring and off the screen. But rest in peace, Tommy. Rest in peace to your whole family here. And to your little sister, or big sister, I should say, as well, who died too young as well. And to all the Morrisons here. And I no disrespect when telling a story like this, you got to include it, I think. Yeah, and hope the 3 sons I know of, hope they're thriving and doing well. All right, that's it. Time to drive. Got to drive very far now for something else. Thank you for watching. Rest in peace, Tommy Morrison. Peace out.